Okay, so what I'm going to do is take you through the notes very briefly and then go to the homework because that's what we had asked about doing. So what's really happening here is we're saying that if you ever have a line that's parallel to one side of a triangle, then what it does is it cuts those sides in proportion. And there's a whole bunch of proportions that exist. Okay, let me get to this piece over here. Here's another one that if a line segment joins the midpoints of two sides, okay, you've got a segment that now becomes called the mid-segment. And what's special about that mid-segment is not only is the mid-segment parallel to that bottom side, but it's in a 1-to-2 ratio. In other words, the small segment, EC being the small segment, the mid-segment, it's half the length of the base it's parallel to. It's half of AB. Or you could say if you doubled that small mid-segment, it would equal the entire length of the side that it's parallel to. So let's get onto some homework. Now here's where it's going to be hard because there's a lot of extra space here. But on this first one, when you, I don't think I need to actually even do 1, 4, 5, and 6. That shouldn't be an issue. I'm going to skip those. Let's do where the actual work comes in. Okay. Here's what I will do though, since I'm sort of skipping through. This becomes x equals 9. Number 4, when you do the solving, you get x equals 12. Number 5, it ends up becoming a quadratic in which the two answers are x equals 3 and x equals 2. And number 8, when you, we didn't have to do number 8. Number 6, sorry, this one you didn't do. Number 6, when you actually do the math, you end up with a fraction, which you can leave it as 9/5. You are allowed to use a calculator, so feel free to put the decimal of 1.8. Okay, issues on that, you need to let me know, but that's not really where I think the problem's coming. I think the problems are coming down here. It's telling you that in the big triangle ABC, R is the midpoint of AB, so you know that this is congruent to that, and D is the midpoint of DC. So essentially, RD is a mid-segment, which means if RD is a mid-segment, it's half the length of AC, or if you double the mid-segment, it's going to equal the entire base that it's parallel to. So that's the equation that you're setting up. I would not be worried about any sort of proportions because that's going to give you a huge headache dealing with the AC method. So if you double the mid-segment and set it equal to the base it's parallel to, I think your life is much easier. So the math here becomes 4x minus 2 equals 5x minus 8. If you bring the x's to the right-hand side, subtract 4x, you're left with x. If you add 8 to the left, you get x equals 6. Once you get that, you can start plugging stuff in. So it turns out that if x is 6, and I plug in 6 here, then you're going to end up with AC being 22, right? So 5 times 6 minus 8. To find AB, AB is this piece right here. I believe it is 10x, take away 1. If you plug in 6, 10 times 6 is 50, minus 1, 10 times 6 is 60, sorry. Minus 1, AB is 59. If you plug it into the next one, which is DC, DC is 3x plus 2, so if I plug in 6 here, 3 times 6 is 18, plus 2, DC is 20. And then RD, RD is the mid-segment, so if I use RD and I plug in 6 here, I get 2 times 6 is 12, and then minus 1 is 11. Okay, so let me just kind of do a quick recap. So you're getting then AB equals 59, AC equals 22, DC equals 20, and then RD equals 11. Okay. 10 is very similar to 9. It's telling you that D, E, and F are all midpoints with the side measure shown. So you see everything. It wants you to find the measure of the perimeter of that small triangle in the center. So what's happening here is you know that if you've got midpoints, you have mid-segments, and mid-segments are always half of their bases. So if I take a look at this mid-segment DE, it is that big triangle I'm looking at. So I know that DE is 1/2 of the base it's parallel to. I'm going to actually erase this now. So that means DE is 1/2 of AC, or 1/2 of 20, which means it's going to be 10. If I look at the triangle differently, and I now look for EF being a midsegment, EF is the midsegment that's going to be parallel to that base. So what happens is EF is 1/2 of AB. AB is a total of 24, so EF is just 12. Let's look at the last one that we haven't touched. We'll go to blue. The last one that we didn't do yet is going to be EF. No, I just did EF and I just did DE. So how about DF? Okay, so DF is a midsegment. It's parallel to BC. So then we know that DF is 1/2 of all of BC. It's 1/2 of 22, which means we're looking for DF to be 11. Well, the perimeter then, let me erase this. The perimeter then goes to this. It says take DE, which is 10. Take EF, which is 12. Take DF, which is 11. And the perimeter now of that whole triangle is going to be 33 units. Alrighty, let's keep going. What we got next? All right, so we had to do, some of these are highlighted. I don't know. We'll just kind of do them all. I'll have to erase some stuff. Okay, so now we've got some proportions to set up, and the proportions can all be different. So I'm going to set the proportions up, but I think what you're going to have to do is do the actual algebra on your own. I'm just going to give you some answers. So one proportion for the first one is I'm going to go left is to right, 6 is to 8, as 9 is to x. That's one proportion, right? I can go left is to right on top of the parallel line, left is to right. Turns out that when you do the math, do the algebra, you get 12. Is xy parallel to BC? Well, it's only going to be parallel if the sides are proportional. So basically, if I take the ratio of the left side 2/3, is it in the same proportion as the right-hand side 3 is to 4.5. You can either use your calculator if you'd like, or just check your cross products. If I multiply this diagonal, I get 9. If I multiply this diagonal, I get 9. Well, the fact that 9 equals 9, then yes, these lines are parallel because your sides are in proportion. Take a look at this next one. If I do the same thing, essentially, where I set the proportions up, I'm going to do it differently. I did the same sides in number 2. Now I'm going to go across. So if I set these sides 30 is to 48, is it in the same proportion as 40 is to 60? That's another way I can set the proportion up. If I now either cross multiply, but I think what might be easier is to simplify, this really turns into 4/6. Which in this case, 40/6, I've got something wrong. It's 40 over, no, that's right, sorry. 4/6, which becomes 2/3. And if I simplify this side, if I divide this thing out by, I guess I can do it by, let's see, 16/5. So 6, if I divide this by 6, I get 5/8. Well, these two fractions are not in the same ratio. So then no, these guys would not be parallel. Okay. When we move down to 4, one of the things that we did in one of our classes is we redrew these triangles, and I think that might be really important, where if you take MPA, this is 8, this is 12.5, and then you take NPE, NP, that's not right, sorry, try that again. NPE, where this guy right here is the unknown, right? NE is X, but then PE is a total of these two sides are 20. I think that might make blah, 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 that might make more sense in coming up with your proportion, which would be if I take 8, which is the PA, to the bottom, 8 is to 12.5, right, of the blue triangle, then on the right triangle, I have to take 20. The entire side is to X. Okay, so that's what you're doing here. When you cross multiply and solve, you end up with a decimal where you get 31.25. This sort of kind of gets in the way a little bit. Let me get rid of this. Okay, on the next one, we're looking for PR. So PR is the unknown. So PR right here, this is the unknown. I'm going to go stay on the same side. I'm going to say, okay, well, 3 is to X as 5 is to 10. That's one of many proportions. Cross multiply, solve. PR is 6. Let's go for 6. We're looking for, we'll go for the side first for A. So I'm going to go 5 is to 3, top is to bottom, as 15 is to A, top is to bottom. Cross multiply, solve, you get 9. Now when I go for B, I have to do with 2 triangles. Well, B is well, let me do the small triangle. So I've got 3, small triangle is to 4.5. When I now take a look at this big triangle, I don't know what B is, but the side of B is 3 plus whatever A is. Okay, so then 3 is to 4.5 as 3 plus A is to B. Now, what we can do in this case is if we already know that A is 9, right? We know that A is 9. 3 plus 9 is just 12. So here's another proportion that you can use. When you cross multiply and then you do the math, you end up getting that B is 18. I did that in the wrong spot. Hold on. Let me fix that. I'm so sorry. I'm rushing because I'm trying to get out of here. So let me back up here. So it becomes 3. Can I just do this over? Let me do this one over again because I think I'm going to just mess some people up. All right. Here we go. We're now doing B. I'm going to go the other way. So I've got this little triangle here where I've got 5 is to 4.5. And now if I look at the bigger triangle, this whole side is 20 is to B. That's better, okay? When you cross multiply and divide, you get 18. Let's keep on going. 7. We're looking for RS first, and RS happens to be this whole thing. So I can say the whole side is to part of its side as the whole side is to part of its side. Cross multiply, solve, you come out with another decimal, 22.5. I'm going to raise this up a little bit. We're going for EB now. EB, where's the, I'm going to erase this. EB is a bottom. EB is, we'll call this thing X now. EB is a bottom. Well, I'm going to go for the top triangle, RBE. 10 is to X as 15, whole side, is to 30. Cross multiply, solve, and you get 20. This one didn't exist for you. And then what's left, I'm going to bring this up a little bit. Maybe not, maybe yes, here we go. So this one, P, we're going to call P right here X. I'm going to go 3 is to 4 as 4 is to X. Cross multiply and solve, and then P ends up becoming 5.3 repeating. That's 5 1/3. 5.3 repeating is fine. 16/3, it doesn't really matter. Your calculator, I guess, would give you that. No big deal. Q. I'm going to stay with 3 is to 4, but now I'm going to go back and I'm going to say S2 is to Q. Cross multiply and solve, you get another decimal, which becomes 2 2/3, but your calculator is giving you 2.6 repeating. Okay, so I'm hoping that that makes things a little bit better. I'm not sure that it does. I'm hoping that it does. That's it. So hopefully we were good there. If you still are having some problems, please, please, please come see me for some extra help. Okay, see you. Bye.